Alrighty, it's 1 o'clock here on the East Coast, and good morning for those of you who are on other coasts. We are here for our final kin finding learning community session, which I know Marina and I are very sad about because I have to say I was connecting with her earlier and I've learned so much. And I hope those of you who have been joining us along the way can say the same thing. We are today discussing kin finding using social media. We have a number of uh, great experts on this topic joining us. What I'm going to do, as I always do, is put in our in the chat information about the Grand Families and Kinship Support Network. You should all be familiar with us by now, but if not, I'm going to put our website in the chat. Please log on to our website. We have new information and resources added every single week. We have a fantastic resource library. And I will also put into the chat two other resources. One of those is the Kin Finding Toolkit that Marina had helped us develop with all of the different strategies that we've covered here in these previous sessions. So if you've missed anything, please take a look at that, download it. You can always go back and refer to it. There's a lot of really practical resources there that you can turn to improve your family search and engagement strategies. And then also I will put into the chat our link to previous sessions that you may have missed. I see that we need to update a couple of our sessions there, but we will get that done within the next day or two. So again, please bookmark all three of those websites because they'll be really practical to go back and refer to. I will also put my contact information in the chat. So if you need any assistance, please, you can reach out to me and I will connect you to one of our technical assistance specialists or someone else on the team to help you. Especially if you need help with implementing any of these kin finding strategies. So we're here to help. All of our technical assistance is free of charge and hope you will be in touch with us. So now I'm going to turn it over to Marina, who will introduce our presenters for the day.
Hey everybody, welcome to our last collaborative. Melissa, I know it's totally crazy that the last year has flown by. We're so appreciative of all of you for coming, all of you who have shared your experience and your questions, and we hope that the recordings and the materials will continue to be useful to you for a long time. So today we are going to dig into social media. In my conversations with many of you, jurisdictions can be all over the map on this. In some places, it's still blocked. In some places, like you'll hear from today, it's really a core part of their toolkit. And so I'm excited to we have 4 speakers today who will share with you how they're using social media to find and engage kin and share some of their tips and tricks with you that you might be able to bring back to your jurisdiction. So first, Stephanie from Ohio, would love for you to share.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. My name is Stephanie Bleal. I'm a program director at Connect. I help support our Connect to Family work as well as Youth-Centered Permanency Roundtables, or YCPRT for short. So Connect to Family is essentially intense family finding, search and engagement strategies that's then paired with some roadmap and support planning. So we don't just identify a caregiver for a youth, we really wrap them in really robust natural supports as we're going along the way. What we know is not every relative or kin that's connected to a youth can be a caregiver. That's just not realistic, but they can be connected to a youth. And so we create a robust roadmap that then plugs all those individuals in to hopefully help stabilize the youth that we're partnering with and working with their kinship caregiver and any supports that caregiver needs for themselves to be able to take on. At times, we're working with large sibling groups or youth with complex needs. And so having kind of forecasted what those needs or supports are going to be, reality testing before we engage in kinship caregiving is really critical. So a key piece of being able to do that is to do really intense and advanced family search and engagement. Just like Marina said, we do use here in Ohio, we do use a really strong base related to social media. It is a key tool of ours we use every day, all day. What we have seen though in our sites around our state here in Ohio though is there are jurisdictions that are still struggling with it. So just like Marina said, and we come alongside those teams to create some opportunities. So what I kind of structured just a little bit of time that I have was kind of in 3 different buckets and thinking about social media. So the first is just related to searching. So how are we just finding people that are connected? Facebook is still our strongest social media that we're utilizing. Even when people think that they have their pages locked down, they may have their page locked down, but their aunt or their sister or their friend does not. And so we just go until we find that person that does not have their page locked down, and then usually go in kind of through the back way to get to some of those connections. So even for someone that's on Facebook that has a really high security, usually you can click on their profile picture. It's really rare for us to actually find somebody that doesn't have a profile picture. And even just hovering over the like or the heart that's for those pictures gives you a whole list of people. We screenshot that list and pull it over and then start looking through that list to try to see how those individuals are connected with people. So that's kind of the first thing we do. We love it when we find someone who has tagged 10 relatives in their Facebook account, because that really sets us up in a good place for our genograms. We do build a really robust genograms or family trees. Our Ohio record actually was just broken this past week. Our record now in Ohio is 609 connections for one child served. So we create really intense genograms for the children that we're serving along the way. We wouldn't be able to do it without social media. It really is a critical tool. So those are some of the pieces. We look to find lots of information, whether it's just names and connections, and trying to find how are people linked. Obviously, if people have similar last names, that gives you a pretty good head start on whether someone's related or not. We do really encourage our team members. How we work a process is they create a professional account in Facebook. So we have run all of our kind of social media ethics by the National Association of Social Workers to try to provide the best guidance around the ethical use of social media. And one of those is to never create a fake account. We do not create fake accounts. We don't create pseudo accounts. We have a professional account that has our team members' photo. Our team members then friend each other so they can see that they have friends. Nobody is accepting a message from someone that has no friends. I think we've gotten to that place where like that's definitely spam or a scam situation. So we call our team members specialists. Our specialists friend each other with their professional accounts to really build this network. They like pages, professional pages, so it shows that they have some activity and really trying to reach out to people. We do not do any type of friend requests. We do not follow people. It really is to be used as that search tool primarily, and looking through those friends and family members, but then also seeing interests. You can also find job history. So actually one of my favorite family search and engagement stories has to do with hunting down a family member at their place of employment. And the way we were able to do that was because they were wearing a name badge in their profile picture on Facebook. And so how do you find some of those kind of picture clues to individuals? Or we definitely see where people are like resharing videos. We love when there's a family reunion or a really significant wedding anniversary or birthday, because that's where you get the most tags of lots of people being present. And you always have kind of that person in the family that's wishing everybody a happy birthday every day of the year. And so you're getting all of those connections if you can find that key family member that is really active on social media. We do use other platforms. Facebook's still our primary one. Where we get into some of the other platforms is when we're partnering with our youth. So there are times where we ask, particularly our adolescent and our teenage youth that we're partnering with, to go through their social media with them. We ask them if we can sit alongside them and just ask who the people are that are on their Snap, who are their top snaps, who are they following on Instagram or messaging on Instagram. So there is a whole separate messenger feature in Instagram. So looking and asking to see who are these people, how are they connected to you, when was the last time you saw them, and trying to explore opportunities directly with engaging the youth on the platforms that they're utilizing. We do use social media for a very limited use of engaging. We primarily use it as a searching tool, and then we want to talk with family members about who we're discovering on social media. There are times when we can't get a phone number either through LexisNexis or Accurate, if you all are using that, or ClearSearch. If we can't find a phone number and all we have is Facebook, we will send a message. Our messages, again, our scripts have all been reviewed by the NASW before we published our scripts, and how to just simply say, this is who I am. I'm hoping we can find a way to connect. I think someone related to you might be involved in the child welfare system. Can you give me a call? We never disclose any type of information. We don't post confidential information. Even if the individual then comes back and says, yes, tell me their name before I call you, we do not give identifying information through that social media connection. It really is our seeking, our goal is to get someone to call, is to get someone to schedule a meeting with us, to have that conversation with them directly. I do have a link to a document that's actually on our website that I'm going to drop in the chat, hopefully here. This is just a document that we have as an overarching document that has some really high-level pieces around items that I'm talking right now about, and guiding through how to set up that professional account, what we use it for, what we don't use it for. There's even those scripts that I mentioned, and then some additional considerations. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, so in addition to thinking about the family and the actual engagement, is then the strategy behind it. So just like Marina said, this is a wonderful and powerful tool, but if you don't have the permission or the authority to use it, it really can put you at a disadvantage. So having a very clear protocol for staff, working along administrators to kind of think about what would it take to be able to allow a team member to do this. We have some jurisdictions that let all of their staff use it. They have a clear policy. They've gone through all the technology permissions. And then we do have some jurisdictions that only allow 1 or 2 select employees to use social media. That's where we've been able to move the needle, that we have someone who's been specially trained to do this work, and then we're able to get around some of the concerns that are there related to sensitivity of information, or maybe using Facebook during work time for not work purposes. But that's not what we're using the tool for in there. So that link there has some really good pieces to go in there. But having that policy and procedure is critical, and then permission. So you do need to have these, especially for our internet firewalls. There are times, even in some of the permissions, where you might not be getting full site access. It might appear as if you're not, but if your permissions aren't set correctly, you'll be getting half sites because it's filtering some of the content for you. So making sure that your filter permissions are set with your tech teams. We have also had times where we work with legal teams and trying to help them understand how critical of a research tool this is. We're very lucky here in Ohio in partnering with our state team. They have continued to reassure our jurisdictions that this is practice. Technology is where our work is progressing, and wanting to get people that access to support it. I'm looking in the chat right now. I do have some tools related to genograms and working on them. We use a software called GenaPro. It's the software that we utilize. Some of you may have also heard of Connect Our Kids. They also have some genogram software that's pretty good to use. I just dropped in a link, our list of diligent search resources. So these are, in addition to social media, the other websites and tools that we utilize. And if you all click on, if you have an opportunity to click on our Connect You website, if you scroll all the way to the bottom of that page, there are a whole bunch of PDF links related to, I mentioned LexisNexis and Accurate, if you have access to that tool, but there's also some Genogram and GenaPro tips that are in there as well that you can access. That was a lot of words in a short amount of time. I know I have 15 minutes. I went right up against it, but happy to answer questions, or if specific situations or anything that I can answer, I'm happy to share more.
Yeah, okay, I'll give it a beat if anybody has questions for you. That was so thorough. I love the specificity of like hovering over the face in the profile picture. I think that's the kind of steps I know that people are hungry for to bring to their own practice. Okay, well, as folks think, if you think of more questions, you can feel free to drop them in the chat, and maybe if we have time, we can loop back at the end. But Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing. That was absolutely awesome. Our next speaker is going to be the team from A Second Chance Inc., going to share about how they use social media for kin finding and engagement. So Amanda and team, happy to pass it to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome and thank you from Philadelphia. And honestly, getting on, and I hope everyone can hear me, but getting on after Miss Stephanie, honestly, I am going to be mimicking a lot. Social media is really big in Philadelphia. Social media has helped us with a lot of stories that I am going to start with because I don't think everybody knows the importance of utilizing all of the tools all together. So yes, we have multitudes of tools, but using them together is really what creates this story, this search to be in more details. So I will start off with the youth that we had here that was AWOL and that we found through social media, specific Instagram. A lot of our teens love Instagram and what TikTok is. And we were so lucky enough to actually be able to engage with the youth. And as Stephanie have mentioned, we always use our ASCI name, our name, right? But also that our organization is loud and clear in these social media platforms to ensure that they do understand where we're coming from, where they don't feel like they were basically, in other words, some youth can feel that they were being blindfolded, they're being found in a way that they may not feel that was safe. But with this specific youth, she's been AWOL for 6 months. And one of our workers was able to use social media to kind of ask her for a contact information and be able to talk to her. Mind you, this youth has been hiding for 6 months from everyone. And through social media, we were able to get in contact with her, be able to reunify her with family. Although, she didn't want to go back with certain individuals, she was able to connect with family members. And again, what social media did was for us is the same thing that has Stephanie had mentioned is that she kept saying she didn't have family. And we knew that was not the case because her Instagram was full of likes from aunts and uncles. And we can tell because they had similar last names. And we did the Accurate search and we use Accurate a lot. Accurate is really big here. And the reason why we use Accurate is because it gives us addresses, it gives us phone numbers. And so, as Stephanie had mentioned, we see these names, we kind of connect the dots and we start calling individuals, right? And we start putting things together. And if we can click on their social media, just in case their number is not accurate, right? In the Accurate search, we can type to them, we can send them a message. And it had worked out for us. Everything with this case was through social media. Nobody was answering their phones, only answering social media, which was cool to see, us interact in this way. But we were able to get her to family, which is always our goal here at Second Chance, especially since this is what we do, kinship. But honestly, the way that we utilize social media is by connecting it with the other tools that we use, right? As have been mentioned, the genogram, eco maps, mobility mapping, circle of support is a big one. We have a questionnaire here at a Second Chance that we utilize that really opens up the youth, the child, to open up their background, right? To talk about that, those days that they may not remember, or just bring up memories that, they just forget because they're in the moment. So at this point, we do see that all of these tools being used together, it's what helps us kind of connect these youth and these children with family. The social media aspect of it all, I will say that it had its back and forth, right? As Stephanie mentioned, legality issues. It had a lot of things that we needed to discuss. How is it supposed to look? How are we supposed to present ourselves? Are we supposed to present ourselves as Amanda, or should we present ourselves as a Second Chance? So again, that's something that we have dealt with. And what we have found is that we do use our names because it's obvious that they have to know who we are. But making sure that our agency's name is the forefront, right? So they don't feel that they are being attacked by scammers or whatever the case may be. And so we have seen that before we just had a second chance logo, but that wasn't really calling anybody's attention. So then we started putting our team's photo in there. And of course, we try to always keep it as professional as we can so that, we can show them that we're in a line of work, but also keeping it where we can look like people that they would want to talk to or that they would feel connected to. Because I think the connection piece is the most important piece, right? Especially when we're talking about youth. Youth want to connect with people. And so I think that the first thing they do is kind of scroll through our page and be like, what are they about? Or what? So what a second chance has done before is we've actually put pictures of activities that we've done for youth, for teens, and kind of, show them that we're not just about putting them with family, but we have other things that we can actually give them, provide them. Even putting shelters on there because a lot of these teens that go AWOL, they don't know where to go. And either they're going to family and friends, or most of the time friends, and these friends are kicking them out at the end of the day. And so we make sure that these resources are placed in our social media as well. But I will say that a big one that is utilized the most is Instagram. I know TikTok is really, really big right now, but Instagram is like their source of communication, is what we have seen. And so I will say that Instagram has given us a lot of stories to tell. And again, I would not leave out these other search engines that we utilize. Accurate is really huge. So I will say that they all work intertwined to help us with these connections. And I do know that Lavelle is on. I didn't know if Lavelle wanted to add anything in there in reference to your cases specifically, but about anything that you want to say, you can do so.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I know it's morning for some, afternoon for others. So we go from the second chance. So what happens, I'm not going to be able to point, but through social media is a great tool. But working with younger children, a lot of people don't know family real names, you always do your aunt as auntie or somebody, and people don't know names, but working with younger kids and working with having like nicknames or having first names and things like that, we're able to go on and try to help identify family for these youth. A big tool also right now that I really dive into is LinkedIn, because through professionals, when you have the name, older, more seasoned people don't have social media, but if they're employed, a lot of them may have LinkedIn. So when you strike out on social media or like Facebook, Instagram, especially Facebook, I then tend to lean into LinkedIn and Google searches because if you Google yourself, some things come up. So when we do certain searches, I always go back, especially if I'm able to pull up some type of photos. I go to you, show you, hey, listen. I know we're looking for Barbara. Is this your Aunt Barb? Does she look like this? What are the identifiers? So when you're looking at social media, and I know people tend to just think of, just the Instagrams and the Facebook, but really lean into just a regular Google search and LinkedIn. But LinkedIn has been huge. But the tools is what really get these things started. Like when we use our basic tools, especially with our 5 fingers of support, when we are able to identify any type of information that we can really dig into. So we're big on asking, our big questions is, okay, well, where do you know last known addresses? Do you know the neighborhood? Do you know the block? Certain things. So any little key factors when we're doing searches online. So if I'm looking up Barber, and it's funny because I can put in Miss Barbara B from Northfield, and on Google and start kind of hone in on certain individuals. But social media has definitely changed the game when it comes to expanding families with searches. So it's really good to hone in. But like Stephanie Amanda said, it's just all about getting it set up on the front end, ensuring that you have the appropriate accounts, ensuring that your agency allows you to actually do the outreach. And then when you do the outreach, it's always good to go back, because when you look at certain names, especially if it's a common name, it's just like doing your acronym. You're going to get a lot of people, and it's easier to really hone in on specifics, especially if you have the youth. I have a youth that, she was actually from Africa. When she's from Africa, she was trafficked and she was brought to the States. She went from Africa to Texas to Philly. And she had no known relatives over here, but she knew her ex stepmother divorced from her father, and she had a name. So from the name, and she had an apartment building that was in Texas. So I did the Facebook, I did the Instagram. It was a strikeout. Then I went on LinkedIn. Went on LinkedIn. I identified, and I was like, so I called her. Is by chance is this person a nurse? Yeah, she is. So then I looked more into it. I found that this was her. She gave me the name of the complex. In Texas, which is crazy, is in Texas. So I was able to find an actual complex in Texas and identify the address and actually linked it to the LinkedIn page. And then when I reached out, I was able to just provide like basic information, didn't give too much, just let her know that the youth was trying to get in contact with. It took a while. It took like 3 weeks, but she finally got back. And now the youth actually have this connection because everyone else is out of the country. So she's able to connect with someone. But like I said, LinkedIn has been really a real strong tool. So if you don't have that in your toolkit, especially when dealing with people of a certain generation, because past a certain age, you're not going to be on Instagram, you probably be on Facebook. And if you're on Facebook, it's probably inactive. So, but if you're working, you probably got an active LinkedIn. So that's something to put in your toolkit when you're thinking about social media. The social media, LinkedIn and Google searches would do wonders for you guys. Thank you. But if y'all have any questions, we're here. Like they said, y'all can put it in the chat, but we're here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. That was so specific. Again, I love all the individual stories and the tactics. Any questions for this team? Okay, hearing none. I'm going to swap my order, Maggie. I'm going to let Allie from Rhode Island go next. And Allie would love for you to share. You've been here before, and you are, I think, one of our most sought after speakers of how you guys are using social media in Rhode Island.
Thank you. Sorry, I was actually late because I was actually helping somebody. So I'm Allie. I work for the Department of Children, Youth, and Families in Rhode Island. I'm part of the Family Search and Engagement Unit, which we're a small state, so there's only 2 of us. And we service the whole state of Rhode Island. So we do our regular, family units. We help out the kids that are on probation, so they're open to our probation. We help CPS that are going out and are on the front lines, after hours, on hours. We kind of touch on everything. We help with the Voluntary Extension of Care Act that we have. So any of our teens that are 18 and over and they sign themselves back into the department, we also help out with them as well. If they're looking for any connections after aging out of our system, we're able to help them with that too. And then we have a support line. So it's kind of people calling and asking for help. So sometimes they'll reach out to us as well to try to find family that maybe the family's in a crisis and they're just not at a point where they can even think of anybody at that point to help them. They're just in such a mess, that they're in such turmoil that they're like, we don't know. So we use a lot of different techniques to try to find family. And I think the person that went before me touched on the fact that you kind of use all of them and you intertwine them all, right? So they had Acura. We have something called TLO, which stands for the last one, which works very similar to that as well. And we use that in tandem with our own system, which is called our Riches system. But then we also use social media. So we use Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and then just like regular search engines. So Facebook, and like this was just said previously, we see it kind of with the older generations, maybe like 30 and over, kind of use Facebook. The younger generations, they're Instagram, they're TikTokers, right? Those are kind of a little bit more difficult to find their names on. So what I've noticed is if I can find somebody on Instagram, most of the time they're linking all of their socials. These kids are linking socials like crazy. They're linking their TikToks, their threads. And then it's just kind of going down that rabbit hole. TikTok has been great for like the video feed of it all, whereas like we had a youth that had been AWOL for months, and we found the mom's name on TikTok, and from a video that she posted on TikTok, we were able to like take a screen grab and see the license plate, and it was like a New Hampshire license plate. Go run the license plate through our TLO, get a name on the TLO, and then actually the person that it was registered to was in prison. So we were like, okay, but we know who that guy is. And we called the corrections office and they gave us the address that he was registered at. And we were able to find that youth in New Hampshire. Crazy things come out of like just the constant digging. Facebook has also been really helpful. We had a family where mom would not give dad's information. We got very little information on dad. And what we did get on him was, could have been anyone. It was a very common name, but the kiddo was like, my dad owns a tattoo shop. And we're like, okay. And then it was like kind of scouring the internet, and through the internet, through like literally a picture that we found, we were able to find his business. I think it was either through Instagram or Facebook. And then we used the TLO site to see who this business was registered to. Called the dad, and the dad had had custody of this child for years. Went to split custody with mom. Mom took off with the kid. So it's just, and he was like, I've been calling, I've been trying. I thought she lived in Massachusetts. I didn't know if she lived in Rhode Island, but it was just this constant loop that we used to find, this one thing. So it really is just using all of the pieces of the puzzle and trying to grab, STEM right now texting me for a missing kid. So trying to grab what you have and then just try it in all of these different things. You might not find it in Instagram, you might not find it in Facebook, but you just got to kind of mine all of this stuff and try to link. A lot of times I'll use Facebook and I'll just read the comment sections. So say if I find somebody and I'm like, I don't know, like, especially when it comes to kin, they're like, they don't have anybody, right? There's nobody, but I'm on mom's Facebook and I see this person constantly commenting on pictures of the kiddo. Oh my God, I love my godson, love my like nephew, whatever, but maybe they're not blood related. So mom's never thought to seek out this person. But I'm like, hey, I've noticed that this person has actually been commenting a lot on moms. And then you ask the kid, and they're like, oh yeah, it's my auntie so-and-so. And you're able to make that connection that maybe the mom didn't think about because she didn't. You're asking for family. Is there any family? They're not thinking of a friend. They're not thinking of a teacher or a previous, worker at a placement they've been in. They're not thinking of those things. So we have the ability to go and do that. We've also, found people through Facebook. I do a lot with the missing kids in Rhode Island, and the team actually that I work with, it's 2 retired police officers that came back and now work in state service. And what we've noticed is they've talked to the kids a lot, and the kids will say, like, I have someone I want to stay with. And it's like, well, have you ever asked your social worker about it? And they're like, no, because I figured they just say no. So a lot of times it's like talking to people that are close to these kids but aren't their workers, or maybe are just like are involved in their lives in some degree, because sometimes they just feel like they can say things to other people that they can't say to their workers. And I've been there because I was a worker. So I understand that everybody has different connections. So our workers have actually, our 2 AWOL people have actually found placements for a lot of our kids by just having the conversations with them, or like talking to us and being like, hey, Allie, when we found that kiddo at this house, had that person ever had any indications? Or did you see anything? Have you seen anything, further when you've looked on their socials? And I'm like, no, actually, like, I think they've been friends with the family for a long time. It's, whatever. But yeah, a lot of the times it's just combing and weeding and trying to find something like a needle in the haystack, but it's super effective if you just put the time and energy into it. And I think the thing is, as our social workers don't have that time to be combing through people's things and looking at a comment from 3 years ago where someone's like, I saw one and I was like, oh, it was like, oh, my granddaughter. And I had no idea, we had no idea that that was the grandmother. So it's just having the time and the ability and having the conversations. We have like really good relationships with our social workers. If they find out their Instagram handle, they're like the first ones to be like, hey, found out the kid's Instagram handle. Can you go check it out? Or we found this, here's the link. Can you dig into it further? We don't allow our social workers to use Facebook for those reasons, but we have the ability to use Facebook for those reasons, and Instagram, like it's like a document that we have to sign through the state. So they'll reach out to us to try to contact the families, but we also use Facebook a lot when it comes to parents. So we've noticed that a lot of parents lose cell phone number, like they lose phones or their phones go deactivated and we're not able to connect with them. So a lot of times we use our Facebook, our Rhode Island, like DCYF Facebook to contact them and to make connections with the parents that maybe the social workers can't because they don't have that connection anymore. They don't have a phone, they don't have a way to get in touch with them. So we'll be their point of contact to try to get information to the social workers. We find a lot of dads that way. We find a lot of dads that, the moms are like, oh, he's not involved. And maybe he doesn't turn out much information, but when we're going on Facebook, I'm like, really? Because he was at the birthday party for the kiddo last year. I see dad in pictures. And then we're able to, we've actually had one that we were about to remove from mom and put in a non-relative. And my coworker was like, are you sure that dad isn't involved? And we, ran through socials, we ran through everything, and come to find out he lived in Rhode Island, has 2 other kids. So we just weren't given the information, but through Facebook and through pictures and just mining our records, we're like, wait a second, he has 2 other kids that he can have in the home. So he probably is going to come up as a possibility for a placement. And we were able to move those kids and reunify with dad. So dads are like a huge thing for us in Rhode Island too, because I'm sure every state sees it, but a lot of times we just don't get information as to dads, or we get very minimal information as to dads. We also use our state website. So we have like a portal for all the judiciary information, and anytime anybody goes to get like SNAP benefits, EBT benefits, they have a DHS case. So in that DHS case, you have to name the father, or you're supposed to name the father. So a lot of times we're able to actually grab that information of the father's name and his date of birth, and then kind of give that information to the social worker. So if it's not provided to CPS by the parent, or it's not provided to the social caseworker, we're actually able to gain that information through DHS. So, and it's all public records. So I don't know, some states have it, some states don't, but we found that as like a huge help to finding potential fathers. And obviously, if they can't be with mom, we want them to be with dad. So that's a huge help. There's just a lot of, we use, the other thing my coworker uses a lot is actually obituaries, which I know sounds kind of crazy, but we're actually able to link people through obituaries and people that they list in their obituary as their family members, and grab them and then, make contact with them after that. So that I think isn't thought of a lot, but I mean, people are still writing obituaries and they're still putting them in papers and they're still putting them online. And a lot of them are online. And so if we know somebody has passed away in the family, we'll look up their obituary and try to gain information through that as well. So that's kind of the gist of what we do. It's a lot. It's like 2 people in a lot of different directions, but we've been able, we also, anytime a case opens for the state of Rhode Island and it goes from any of like, so any of the units like CPS, the supportive line, and it comes up to our family, like just our family service unit, we run a TLO on them, and we're making connections from the jump. So we might see that someone's young on a TLO and we might utilize social media in that respect too. Like, say if there's not a lot of information, maybe they have like a 26-year-old cousin, but they haven't had a lot of stuff, so the TLO doesn't really populate much. We might go to social media and see if we can find that youth, that family member through social media and make a connection that way. So it's just a lot of different things that you can try to navigate to try to get the information that you're looking for. Rhode Island has a 73.1% of our kids, I think, or 71.3 are with family. We have a really high rating in our state for getting our kids with family members. And it's just a lot of work with our social workers. And it's that constant motion of us just constantly looking for people and revisiting families, revisiting cases with the social workers when we hit dead ends. So does anyone have any questions? It was a lot. The TLO website, it's actually just like TLO. Let me see if I can find it. You do have to pay for it. The department does pay for our membership that we have, and you pay like monthly, and you pay by user, and you also pay by like what you're looking to access. We use a lot of different features on the TLO. You can run a license plate on the TLO. You can run a business. You can run an address. So those are really big things when we're looking for our missing youth. Is like I actually just got a license plate. So it has a lot of different features, but I don't know how much it is, like what kind of rate they get. But I can send it in the chat. I can copy and paste it after so you can get the TLO website.
Allie, thank you so much. And I know you are literally trying to find the lost youth right now. So
Yes.
we will let you go focus
Thank
on
you.
it is top priority.
All
Thank you so much for
right, I'll
sharing.
put it in the chat and then I'll head out. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks.
Amazing. So we have one more speaker today, Maggie. Thank you for swapping with Allie so she could go help that kiddo. And Maggie is one of my, I think you gave the first presentation ever to my other working group.
Wow. Okay.
In finding. So this is kind of a cool loop that you're
There we
our
go.
last one of this one. So
Well, thank you. Thank you. There's been so much great information. I'll try not to duplicate it. I'll try to come up with some new tips if I can. I think we are doing a lot of things that are similar to what some of the other presenters have shared. So I am actually the supervisor of our kinship unit, and so we are responsible for the search and engagement with relatives. And primarily, we're working to try to find relatives during, when we're looking to separate a child from their birth family, and we'd like them to be a placement option. Virginia is a big proponent of placing children with relatives, and so we've been actively trying to increase our relative engagement. So for us, social media has been a huge part of the work that we do. And we have had a lot of success with it. I think to echo what others have said, we really use it and integrate it with other search engines. It's almost kind of like a triangle for us, I think, where we're using our Accurate, which is our database where we pull from for information, social media, and then Ancestry. We actually have had a lot of success with Ancestry and kind of cross-referencing everything. Obituaries have also been great for us, as morbid as it sounds. They do provide a lot of information because they identify family members. So we actually do things a little differently. While we are not, we do not have fake accounts. We're not secretive in our accounts. We don't use our names. We refer to ourselves as Family Finder 1, Family Finder 2, Family Finder 3. And we do identify ourselves, as Fairfax County government. But it's not specifically our name on there. And for us, it's worked okay. We've still had some engagement when we send messages to people. They have responded to that. We don't use it as much to engage. We usually like to try to find the information on social media and then go to our database, get a phone number, and call them if at all possible, because we feel like that's where we've had our best engagement, when we're able to have those conversations with family members. We are able to access DMV. And so we often, when we start out, we pull a list of relatives on Accurate. get the information for the birth parents, and then try to go to DMV and find a photo, because it's helpful if we're going to go to social media to be able to have some kind of reference as to what they might look like in their profile picture, especially if it's a super common name. So that's been something that's really been helpful for us in identifying a relative. When we're not able to find a family on social media, then we often go back to our Accurate list, which is it usually gives us up to the 3rd degree relatives. We're able to pull that. And we try to find kind of the most uncommon name on the list, something that might not have, 100 people name with the same name. And so we tend to try to put that name into Facebook or Instagram and see if we can get a hit on that and kind of work backwards. And so we were just working with a case today where we had that situation. I could not find the actual birth mother. And so we were able to put in the grandmother's name, which was a bit rare. And from that, we were able to work our way backwards and start to confirm family members. I will say be mindful. People often have multiple pages. We found that with social media, a lot of times, especially our families might have had one when they were kind of in their teen years, and then they've forgotten it and they've opened it up a few times. So it is not uncommon for us to find 5, 6 pages. So don't necessarily stop when you think you've looked at that one page. Make sure you're going back to your search list of, like, if you put in a name in Facebook, and see if you might have other pages for that family, because sometimes it's those pages. Maybe at the point, their most recent page, maybe they're a bit more disconnected from their family. And some of those older pages, we've been able to piece together a little more who family members are. I also think, at the top of Facebook specifically, they have kind of this little line that says like work, family and relationships, places where you've lived. And so if you click on all those, they expand. And so a lot of times there's some helpful information in there. You might be able to get places that they've been employed, places that they've lived. Also, you can link relationships. So a lot of times we'll open that family and relationships, we'll press on that, and it'll then start giving names like, Joan Smith is the aunt, and, Mary Smith is the grandmother. And so then you start, all of a sudden, it just opens up a wealth of information for you. We also have had success, believe it or not, like with nicknames. I remember a specific case where we were trying to find the father. All the mother knew was that the father had some, she called him, I mean, I can't even remember what it was, but it was some kind of nickname, and she had met him in DC. And believe it or not, I was able to type the nickname and DC into the search engine and got a hit, showed it to mom, and that was the person that we were trying to identify. So even if you have information, you think there is no way I'm going to find something with this information, you might be surprised, and I would encourage you to go ahead and just try to plug that information in any place you can. When we go in and do a search, we are kind of going through the friends list. If the friends list is public, trying to find people with with the same last name. We go through the photos. We try to read all of the comments. I have had multiple times when someone has posted a phone number in the comments, or they have identified the relationship in the comments. Someone posts a picture and then the comment says, "Grandma loves you. I miss you so much." And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, bingo, we're on to something, and we potentially have a grandparent here. So definitely read those comments, check the friends list. Don't be afraid to get creative. Like I said, we are searching for placement, and we have to search for relatives at the time the child is going to be removed from their birth family, every time there's a placement change, and annually. And we have to submit a report to the state as to why we didn't place with relatives. We just had a case, it was actually last week, and it was a baby. We felt really strongly we wanted to connect this baby with family. and we just couldn't find anything. We couldn't kind of get that clue that we needed. We found a picture on Mom's Facebook page that identified her wedding party. And so we actually decided to reach out to some members of the wedding party because we figured usually those are people that are pretty close to you, have been in your life for a while, and they could potentially be placement options or provide us some information or be a support to the parents as they try to reunify with their child. We reached out to someone in the wedding party, and actually they had been very connected to the family. They had helped raise the birth mother and had lost contact with the family and were actually able to be the placement option for the child. So, it kind of shows you there are, really it can be anybody. Don't limit yourself to thinking, oh, we must know that this person is grandma. If it appears that they have a strong connection on social media, then they probably do, and they may be able to be a support in helping you find family or be an option to work with the family or support the family. Same, I think someone else mentioned this, but when you have pictures, kind of looking for clues in pictures, license plates. We've had several kids, they get like their diplomas, they graduate. And if you zoom in, you can get a name on a diploma or we had one where we couldn't, for the life of us, figure out where this relative was. We found a diploma. It listed, if you zoomed in really close, we were able to get the high school. We were then able to Google the high school and figure out what area, what state they were in, and then go into our database and find the contact information for that family. Another way we've actually used social media is there is a audio and video call option in the messaging portion of at least Facebook. And so a lot of times when we have international families, we've used this as a way to communicate with them initially until we can determine whether they have a phone number we can call. So it's just another way to kind of reach out to people. Some of our international families only have access to something like social media, and so that's how we've had to communicate with them and provide information back and forth. And so we've done video calls with them to gather information or assess whether maybe we should be looking at like an international home study or view maybe their home in their community in their home country, just to kind of gather more information. So that's been a helpful piece. We do use the messaging features of social media at times. We try to, again, while not disclosing confidential information, have a sense of urgency to our message, something like, we need to speak with you as soon as possible. We think we might be working with a child that or something to kind of catch their eye and appear a little more, important that they connect with us than just a general message. And we've had some success with that. You can see when someone has read the message. So sometimes I see someone reads the message, they don't respond. Or sometimes I see they don't read the message, and then we try to go back and see, do they have a more updated account? Have they now moved from Facebook to Instagram or to another forum? So we try to go back and check on that. One thing that we have not done, but I will mention this because we contracted with a private agency that used to do this, and they had some success with it. They would create specific pages for like a private group page on Facebook for a family. And as they were family finding people, they would friend the people to put in that specific group so that messages could be sent out to a family as a whole. So if they needed to communicate something about the, a family partnership meeting, or they needed to ask a question or gather information. Hey, does anybody have a phone number for, cousin Fred? Then they could put that in the chat or in that group and communicate. Again, that's not something we have done, but I did want to share that as something that we had learned from another agency that they had found some success with. I think, again, a lot of stuff was already said, and I echo what everyone has shared. I think it's one of those things, if your program will give you permission to use it, it's a wonderful tool. And it has definitely increased the relatives that we've found and the placements that we've been able to make with relatives. And so kind of once you start, you start to get the hang of it and all these kind of tricks and tips. But I do think and would encourage, if there is an opportunity for you to use it in your work, to take advantage of that, because it is definitely kind of how people communicate these days and where they post information. And so it's definitely been a helpful tool for us.
Thank you so much, Maggie. Thank you to all of our speakers today. This was so rich with detail and ideas, and I hope that everybody's coming away with one new thing you might be able to take to your agency. Before I pass it back to Melissa, I just want to say it's been so fun and so fascinating and so rich in information to have this Kinship Collaborative with all of you for the last year. Thank you to our speakers. Thanks everybody for coming. We hope the recordings and materials will still be useful after this. So it's a little bittersweet to have this be at the last session, but again, thanks everybody for participating. And as Melissa, I think, will remind us, if you heard something today and you're like, oh man, I would love to use social media, but it's blocked, or I would love to use social media, but I need a little bit of help. Please reach out for the free TA, and we would be honored to help you. Melissa, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you. I just want to thank you so much, Marina, for all of your help in not only developing the Kin Finding Toolkit, but for helping develop and partner with us on this learning community. It has been really, really interesting, learned a ton, and happy to see some people coming back week after week to continue to learn. And for all of you, for all the work that you're doing is so important. This is like a detective to me. This is all detective work. And I told Marina one day we should start like a reality show that is about family search and engagement and have these true stories, because I do think like this is also interesting, really. I think this would be a great idea. So we'll see what happens in our spare time, if we can pull that together or not. But in any case, thank you all for joining us today, and please reach out if you need any help. And thanks to all who joined us today as well and presented. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.